Y'all doing? What we're gonna do is we're gonna start off by building the landing page for you guys' portfolio. All right. So what I want you to do, I went to Moodle and I added a new file, and what you'll see is this portfolio start. Go ahead and download that. You guys should know how to download files by now, hopefully. Uh, and once you got that, I already downloaded, so I'm not going to do it. But you'll get the zip file, of course, and you know that you double click on it and you'll get the My Portfolio folder. And that's what we literally want at this point. So I'm just going to take this and drag it into brackets here. All right. Now, what you're going to notice is a couple things have changed from our conventional boilerplate, which happens. There are a couple of things that you want to take a look at over here. Now, of course, we have our index.html. This is our home page. We know that. Then we have the stylesheet.css. That's our style sheet. But you'll also notice that there's an images folder. In your portfolio, you'll have a bunch of images. So it's good to have those organized inside an actual folder. So in this case, I have the images folder right here. So any images that I add will be added in this folder. And you can see that in My Portfolio, there it is. There's images there. Now you guys are also seeing a file that you're probably not used to seeing unless you coded before. And that's this jQuery 321 min.js. And what jQuery does is it opens up interactivity options for us. And I also had to link to it in the head of my document. Now this is for later. We won't use this right now at this point, but this will be helpful a little bit later on. So if we want to like hover over image and have some effect, or we want to create a image library, so to speak, we can do what we call jQuery plugins, and we can create some really cool effects, and we'll get to that later on. So leave this file alone. Don't modify any code within it. Leave it alone. We need it. I don't need you to modify this. All right, and leave this link there. All right. Now probably I'm going to end up showing you guys examples of portfolios later, but what I want to do is build a standard landing page. The landing page is extremely important. This is the page that people will see first. So you want the design to look pristine. You want it to look really, really good at that point, because that's what people are going to see. That's what employers are going to see first. So we're going to try to nail this out. Now there's a couple of things that we're going to have in this on this landing page. We'll end up having a header, and this header will now have a navigation in it. Now we won't build a navigation in this one lesson where it links to anything, but we will get it set up so we can get to it later. Also, we're going to have, usually on your landing page, you'll have like, information. So you might have, bio info, information about yourself to tell employers about you, which is great. And then also you might have a mugshot, or picture of yourself to just show people what you look like. Sometimes people want to see a face with the work, and that's good too. So we're going to get all of this set up. So let's actually get started. Now the first thing I'm going to do is switch my view to the vertical split so you can see both my index and my style sheet. All right. Now, if you remember, this should all be new. You should know this by now. But the first thing we're going to do is create the wrapper. So we'll just say open caret div id equals, and we know we're going to call that wrapper. Remember, this is containing all of our content. I'll just put the closing div right there at the bottom. There we go. Okay. So we got this here. Now, of course, we end up writing rules for that wrapper. So I'm going to say hashtag because this is an ID, and I'm going to say wrapper. And we do a couple of things here. The first thing that I'm actually going to write is I'm going to write the rules for my wrapper, which is a max width. And we know that goes to 960 pixels. We're going to keep that value. And we're also going to say a margin 0, margin 0 auto. Great. So we got that rules. Now the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually set a height of my wrapper here. And I'm just going to set it, I want to say height. And I'm going to give it a height. I haven't showed you guys this, but we can also give percentages. So if we want something to take up 100% of the content, so we don't have to keep setting individual values, we can give it a percentage. In this case, I want my wrapper to be the height of all of my content. And literally that's going to be 100%. And that is it. So max width, width of my page should be 960 pixels. Margin 0 auto. That is telling me, hey, I want my content centered, and then a height of 100%, so all of my content fits there. We got our wrapper pretty much set up. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to build a header in this case. Now, I showed you that in the box model how we built a header, and it was actually contained in our wrapper. In this case, I do not want that. I don't want it to be in my wrapper because my wrapper, of course, is going to restrict it to 960 pixels. A lot of times in portfolios, what will happen is the header takes up the whole width of the browser window. And I actually want that to happen in this case. It'll be aesthetically pleasing. So I'm going to create a header, but in this case, I'm going to create it outside of my wrapper. So make sure that you're above the wrapper, and let's write open caret header. Alright, so we got an actual header here, and that is cool. Okay, now what is our header going to actually consist of? We're going to actually put a logo in there, and you all have access to this. I have the same images, so I got a logo, bb.png. You're going to replace this with your own logos, but this is just serving purely as a template at this point. And then you have mugshot.jpg, and that's going to be, I just have a picture of somebody, and it's just a cropped out circled photo. And these are kind of aesthetically pleasing here for a portfolio. So that's cool. Let's actually get started. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put some things, write some rules for my header. So let's come over here and let's say header. And we're set up. Now, I told you that I wanted it to extend the whole width of the browser. So in this case, what you would do is you would give it a width, but you'll give it a percentage. So in this case, 100% is going to be perfect. That's going to take up all of the space on my browser window. So all of the horizontal spacing. Now some people are talking outside my office, but hopefully it's not picking up too bad. Alright. And we're going to give it a height. Now for the height, I'm going to make this sort of probably small. So in the case of the height, I'm going to say 150 pixels. Now you can manipulate this however you want. If you need a header to be 300 pixels, depending on the content that you have, feel free to do so. This is simply serving purely as a template, and you guys can go in and manipulate this stuff. Alright, and let's give it a background color. And I'm just going to say, I just want you to be black. And that works perfectly. So if I hit save, Command S, I should see a header here. And honestly, 150 is looking a little big for me, so I might actually change this to like 120 in the height. It's up to you though. Let's see if that looks a little bit better. That looks pretty good. Alright, so what are we going to put inside of this header? What I want to do is actually, first thing I want to do is put my logo here. And that's going to serve great. So I got a little logo here in the images folder. So in the header, we know that's where we want our logo to go. I'm going to write code to get this image to show up. And you should remember image source, right? So image source, and I'm going to say equals. Now, the directory here is extremely important. Now, I told you that we put our images in a folder. So you actually have to tell the code what folder it is. Now, we can see that mine is already pulled up once I put the equal sign there. So if I put in images slash, you'll see there's my bb.png. And I'll hit enter. And there it is. Now let's see if it showed up. Now the color or the contrast might be a little off. Can't remember. Whoa. Alright, now it is really big. Not what I want. So in this case, I'm going to resize the image here. So I'm going to go in and give it a width. So let's go in and say width equals. And I gave it a width of something like, I want to say like 200, no, that won't work. Let's do, so my height, so let's do 120 pixels. Let's see if that, see what that gives us. A little big, a little tight around the edges, so how about we resize it a little bit more? Let's give it something like, let's do 100. And there you can see it right there. Now, it's kind of hard to see, that's fine. This, you're going to want to make sure that your colors kind of match what you're trying to do in this case. Now, if I wanted to, I could go in and change my background color. So if I said something like something like purple, let's say plum on my background color. There you can see this a little bit better here. And it's however you want yours to look. Remember, this is representing you, so however, whatever colors represent you, whatever colors you feel represent you, do it. Alright? Cool. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I want to go in and play around a little bit more. Now, I told you that this is going to have a navigation. And that's what I actually want this to actually do. So we're going to actually create a navigation inside of our header. Now if you remember the PowerPoint that I created, remember that we used the nav tag. Alright, so the nav actually is creating a navigation for us. This houses the main navigational blocks. Now what is this nav going to contain? The first thing it's going to contain is a list. I told you that we use lists to build out navigations, and that's what I'm doing here. That's literally all I'm doing. And the list items will be the navigational items. So I'll just say li, and you're going to have a couple, so I'm going to write 4 for now, li, and then I'll write another li. So I got 4 LIs, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what is the first one going to be? This will probably be like home, right? Home is the home page. So when they click on this, we're going to want them to jump back to the home page. The next one can be, my work, whatever content you have. So this could be your portfolio page. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in this order. Now, of course, home would be first, but if you want to switch the order around, It's up to you, but usually this is the order on a portfolio. And then you'll have maybe like a contact page. So I can say contact me, whatever you kind of want. I can just say contact, simply. And the last one, you do want to put a resume on here. So I'm going to say resume. So you're going to have 4 navigational items on your actual page, which is going to set up pretty nicely here. And I'm going to hit save. Now it's going to be a couple of things that we're going to have to do. And we're going to have to go back and forth. The first thing we see is my actual navigation is down here, out of the header, not what I want. Also, it has bullet points. I want to get rid of those. And I also may want to make my sizes bigger. But the other main thing is most navigations flow horizontally. And these are flowing vertically. Not what I necessarily want. So we got to do a couple of things, and this is going to be some new code here to get this set up. Alright, so we're going to focus in on our 3 items that are dealing with our nav. We're going to have to set up some rules for the nav. We're going to have to set up some rules for our unordered list. And we're also going to have to set up some rules for our list items. So let's actually do that. So the first thing I'll do is write nav. Alright, so we're going to write some rules for the nav here. And then let's come down and write UL, because we're going to end up writing rules for the unordered list. And then let's also come and write LI, and we're going to write some rules for those. So now we're kind of set up in what we want. Alright, so let's focus in on the nav for now. The first thing that I want to do is you need to tell it how much space you want this to take up. So what it's saying is all of these items, how much space do I need to use in order to make this work? And depending on how many items you have, it will vary. Now in this case, I'll just give the width something like 500 pixels. You know, if you have like 7 words in here, you might need 700 pixels, depending on how big your words are actually going to be. And we'll get to that a little later on. Alright. Also, how much height do you want this nav to actually take up? So in this case, it probably won't take up too much space, but you may have to manipulate it. I might say like 50 pixels. So if you're asking, am I just guessing numbers? Yeah, I pretty much am. Depending on how much space I need this to actually take up. Now if you need more space, add it. It's nothing wrong with it. You're going to have to play around with your numbers. You're not going to just nail it first off. I kind of know the range of numbers because I've done this a couple times. So I have a general idea. In your case, you may not. So you might want to actually figure that out. Okay. And then what I want to do is I have my width, I have my height, and we're kind of set up here. So we'll leave the nav alone for now. And you can see that it kind of highlighted the space, but we still have issues. The next thing that I want to do is I want to hold my attention to the unordered list. We have bullet points. Navigations never have bullet points. We know that. So we need to get rid of them. And it's actually pretty easy. So on our unordered list, that's what's controlling the bullet points. We know that. So I need to tell it, hey, get rid of bullet points. I want an unordered list, but I don't want bullet points associated with it. So what we can do is there's something called list style. All right. And you can see there's a bunch of different list styles, but in this case we don't want any, so I'm just going to say none. And lo and behold, I should not have any any bullet points, excuse me. There we go. Now we're set. Okay. Now, the other thing that I want to do now is I need these to flow in a line. Now we can see that these are block level elements. We know that. So I need to tell it, hey, I want you to be an inline element. So the way that we can do that, I showed you this in the box model, but we're going to do it for our list item. So let me go in and tell my list item, hey, I don't want you to, be block anymore. So I'm going to tell you display. I'm going to tell it how I want this to be displayed. And I'm going to write inline. So what this is doing in this case is making these flow in a actual line, which is good for us. Aha. And now we got our list items and they're in a line. This is great. We're set up here. Now, there's a problem. Number one, it's still out of the nav. And we need to actually fix this, and we'll do that here. Now remember, if you want things side by side, truly these are acting as if, well, this is a block level element. We know by default the image is not necessarily a block level element. But right now it's still telling, hey, you can't take up my space, I have this. So what I want to do is I want to tell this to float to the left, and I want my navigation to float to the right. So I want my image on the left here, and I want my nav on the right. Now if you want it centered, you know how to do it. Margin 0 auto, right? That's how we can center content. But I'm going to take this over here to the left hand side. And usually it kind of looks better that way. So you don't have to play with so many numbers to get this perfectly centered. So let's actually do that. So what I want to do is tell my image to float to the left. But the issue is that if I just write image here, make sure I save everything, I don't want to lose my spot. If I write image, what it's going to do is it's going to float every single image I got to the left. Not what I want. So how can I uniquely identify these? Let me just give it a class. Alright, so I'm going to say class equals, and let's just call this logo. So I'm going to say class equals logo. And I'm going to hit save. Bam. Now nothing has actually happened. We need something to happen. So in this case, let's go into my list item, and let me go in and write, well, not list item, excuse me, in my logo. So I'm going to write dot logo. Alright, because we're coding strictly for this image. And I'm going to tell it, hey, I want you to float to the left. Now it's already on the left hand side, but what that's going to tell the code is something can come up beside it. And voila, look, it's right beside it now, which is cool. That's what I actually want. Now I want this to be displayed here. So I'm going to say, hey, what I want you to do now is on my list items and my nav here, I want you to float to the right. So on the nav, let's go in and let's write float, and let's say right. Let's see what we get. Great. So, a couple of things here. We now have this floated to the right, and this is set. Now you probably want this pushed down a little bit, but the first thing we want to do is get an idea how much space we're working with. This text is really, really small, so I may want to go into each list item and just change the value of that text. So in this case, I'm going to say list item, about I make you a little bit bigger? So let's go into font size. And how about I make you, let's say 25 pixels. And you can experiment. That's what code's all about. You can experiment here and see what you get. That's looking better. And we're good. And that's looking pretty good. Now, you may want to even add some margin to space these out, each one of these out. So in this case, how about we do that? So on the margin of our list items, let's add a margin. I want to just say left. And how about we just write like something like 10 pixels? Now this is actually looking pretty good. And we're getting it to work. So if you want to push it over a little bit, so if I need to say, 15 pixels, feel free. Experiment however you want this to actually look. It's up to you. That looks pretty good. So now our header is sort of built out in this case. And we do also have some space here. Now, if you want this closer to the edge, you will have to crank down the width of the nav. And that's what coding's about. So on the nav, if I need the width, I can say, it'll be like 450. Now, if you don't have enough space, you'll see a collapse. But mine actually worked. So this is actually looking pretty good. And it's set up. Now, you also may want to push this whole nav down. So what I can do is tell it, hey, drop down a little bit. So I can give this a margin top. And I can say, drop down like 50 pixels. Hmm, 50 pixels might be a little too much. So let me bring this up a little bit. So I'll say like 40. Still might be a little too big, but we'll see. Too much. Not bad, not bad. Maybe I'll say like 35. So you can see I'm having to plug in numbers and get it to what I want this to actually be. And now our header is literally set up and we're good. Now some students actually put like their name in the middle. You could do that however you want. Or if you wanted your nav to be in the middle here, you could give it a margin 0 auto and not float it. So you could kill the float and say margin 0 auto. However you want this to actually be is up to you. It's up to you how you want this to be set up. But we kind of got this built out here. And this is looking pretty good for now. We're going to do a little bit more to this to really get this the way we want, but this is a good start. So we built out the header, and this will be a good stopping point here, and then we'll come back to it and we'll start making our fine adjustments. What we're doing now is literally just blocking out our content, where we kind of want things to go. And this is a good philosophy to start off with. And then you go in and add your nice detail and things like that to really get your site looking nice. But this is a good spot. This ends our header for now. And then we'll come back to it, make all these linkable so they go to different pages. And we can even add some type of content here if you want your name in the middle. You can do a variety of things here. But for now, we'll leave this as it is at this point. So this is a good stopping point, and thank you for watching.